You're watching the Battered Fans Network.
Solana, the Heat got you sick. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 84 of the Battered Heat Fans podcast. I am your host, Daniel Granada, and alongside me is usually Mr. Daniel Solana, but he is not feeling well, which I don't blame him because the Heat have everybody feeling sick. Another embarrassing performance by the Miami Heat. They lose to the Toronto Raptors 121-95. And silly us, last episode, we were trying to figure out how could this team end up in the 5th or 6th seed? I know we only have 4 games left, but it's still possible that they could miss the play-in. They can work their way into the top 6. And for some reason, we were on here seriously considering how could this happen? Well, one of the things you needed to do was you needed to sweep the Toronto Raptors. And you knew that. They knew that. They needed it also. You go in there into Toronto for the first time and you get embarrassed. You get embarrassed yet again. This isn't anything new. The Miami Heat have been getting embarrassed since their 7-8 game win streak. I already forgot at this point because it doesn't really matter. Since then, they've been getting embarrassed night in and night out. Since that streak happened, I believe they're 3-9 in those last 12 games. Like, this team looks bad. If it wasn't for that hot start in November, and I have to go back and check. Actually, I should have done this before. If it wasn't for that hot start in November, this wouldn't even be a playoff team. Like, they might be down there with the lights of the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's say. Let's see if I could do this real quick. I'm gonna try to back my best to do this while still talking on here. Um, the Miami Heat embarrassed themselves yesterday when I was watching that game in the second quarter. There was a point in the second quarter when the game was still close. They might have been tied. And one of the big men for Toronto are on the 3-point line. They pump fake. Khalil closes out. And then the guy just steps right by him, takes it to the hole with absolutely no resistance, no rotation. It was really, really bad, really embarrassing. So the Miami Heat started the season uh 13-6 by the time November ended. So let's go with 13-6. And you know what? That wasn't even that great. But 13-6. I think it's just we got excited because it was better than we expected. So 13-6. If you take 13 as 28 and 32. So if you take the month of November, October and November away when they got to that hot start, they are 28 and 32 under 500, obviously, because they've been piss poor. The defense has been absolutely embarrassing over the last couple weeks. They gave up 121 to Toronto yesterday. Now, we were talking about Washington and how Washington was a gimme game, right? Because Washington doesn't want to win. But when you really think about it, the fact that you gave up 136 points to those Washington Wizards that suck is pretty embarrassing. And then the game before that, 147 to Boston. The game, 2 games before that, Indiana, which is also tanking. You get your ass kicked by a tanking team, and they put up 135. Then you have the Cleveland Cavaliers put up 149, almost 150 the game before that. You got this. You got 136 here, 123 there, 134 there, 136 there. So these are all scores of teams. The opposing teams are putting up this many points. At one point on March 12th, after we beat Milwaukee, which was the last game of that win streak, we were 38-29. At that point, who really thought that we could end the season with 41 wins? We had 38-29, and it's a real possibility that we end up exactly at 500, at 41-41. We're 41 wins right now with 3 games left. We got Toronto again, and Toronto needs this game. They're fighting to stay up in the outside of the play-in because they could still fall into the play-in. So they're going to be going for it. And Miami, of course, Miami, when we count them out, then they finally miraculously win 1 game. But they could very well lose that game. Then you have Washington, which is, again, tanking. So just like you got that miracle win on Saturday where they basically giving you the game, even though they scored 136, you'll probably win that game also, which will keep you from staying 41-41. And then you got Atlanta, which is fighting for playoff positioning also. You'll probably lose that game also. There's a real chance that this season ends 42-40 after being 38-29 just less than a month ago. This is ridiculous. They have clinched the play-in yet again. Now, one thing that I hadn't considered, and I'm not sure why I hadn't considered it, just because I guess because the Miami Heat are play-in champs, that it didn't really cross my mind. But now that I think about it, could be a blessing in disguise. If you make it into the play-in and you lose that first game to, let's say, Orlando, right? You lose for the 6th time in a season. First time in NBA history that you would lose to one opponent 6 times without playing them in the playoffs. But let's say you play against Orlando and you lose. You end up in the lottery. Now, I have to confirm that you end up in the lottery, right? I'm pretty sure that that's what I read, that you end up in the lottery. And I hadn't even thought about that. Now, if you ask me, that's the best case scenario for Miami right now. Because if the lottery is a possibility for the Miami Heat, the NBA does a pretty good job of rigging the NBA draft. That's right, I'm saying it. They rig it and paying teams back when they've been done wrong. Right? Cleveland loses LeBron, they get the first overall pick. Cleveland loses LeBron again, I believe they get the first round pick again. You get New Orleans loses Anthony Davis, they get the first pick. You get Luka, gets traded away inexplicably. Feel bad for Dallas, give them the first pick. Like, those things happen. They happen often. And those are teams that usually don't have very good odds of winning the lottery. If the NBA wants to pay back the Miami Heat for the crap that we had to put up with the Terry Rozier situation, might be able to pay us back. So you can go through this horrible season, but you get knocked out of the play-in. All of a sudden, you end up in the lottery. Hey, NBA, you can make things right. You screwed us over with the Terry Rozier thing, but you can make things right. You can give the Miami Heat, like you gave Dallas last year. You given Cleveland a couple times. You given the Pelicans. You can give us the number 1 pick, or maybe number 2, whatever. There's 2 players that are coming out that are pretty good. All of a sudden, things change because, yeah, the Miami Heat don't have a great roster, but if you can draft a franchise player and put them around this roster, hey, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. We just had to put up with this crap of a season, this roller coaster of a season, and maybe things end up well. So, as you can see, I'm not very optimistic about the play-in situation because I'm already thinking lottery. I think that that's the best case scenario, and I think that that's where we might be. And I mean, and obviously Solana wasn't here. I didn't really feel like talking about this game too much, but just to touch on it, the fact that Bam Adebayo missed the 83 points, came out and threw up such a dud with just 7 points, 1 for 7 from 3. It was just a bad performance overall. Khalil Ware, even though Toronto has size, only played 17 minutes. It's just so many negatives. And we had a full strength yesterday, I believe, right? Yeah, because Norman Powell had come back like full strength. This is just embarrassing. It's sad. And the Miami Heat, if again, I'm already thinking about the lottery, but if for some reason that doesn't work out and they don't get a top pick, the Miami have to do something. This team can't stand pat anymore. Like, it's been this case that we've been saying it for the last couple of years. And Norman Powell was a good pickup. Can't deny that. But it was a bargain deal. And the Heat only dealed in the bargain bin. You got to get out of the bargain bin. You got to spend some money. You got to take some chances. You got to lose a trade. Oof, no, we can't lose. No, sometimes you got to do it. You got to trade a Khalil Ware for a Kevin Durant. Maybe you got to do it. But that was it. Just wanted to come on here and rant a little bit. Solana wasn't here, so we'd love to hear what he had to say, but he's not feeling well. Hope he feels better. And that's it. We'll be back on, when's the next game? Thursday, I believe. So we'll be back on Friday morning talking about probably another loss to the Toronto Raptors. So until the next one, have a good one.